Hello, my friends. How are you? What are you up to today? Are you here? Are you present with me? I hope so. I'm excited to share with you before my day gets crazy. I'm still in America, and it's 10:30 here on the East Coast of the United States. I'd like to know, where are you watching from? Type into the comments. I'd love to hear what's good in your world. You know what? Today is a day we need a lot of my healers to jump on. So if you are a healer, if you happen to have a healing practice, or you just know that you can send positive vibes out, I want you to stick with me or forward this video to somebody else who might be able to tap in, because I've been getting a lot of messages from people in our tribe who are suffering with a variety of illnesses, conditions, challenges. So would you please do that? If you are a healer, then stay with me here. This is going to be a short live session because I have an interview with one of my Time to Rise authors in 30 minutes. So I'm not going to take a lot of your time, I promise you. So tell me what's good in your world. If you happen to be one of those people who needs a little healing, you can type it in, but no worries if you don't. I want to talk to you about the perspective that might help us all to raise our vibration and to tap into more of the healing and abundant, loving energy in the world. So let me know who's watching with me. I'm curious. Yeah, I want to know who's here. What y'all up to? Are you with me? Are you with me? Let me know. So here's a little bit of context for you. Many of you may know that part of my work is working in transformational leadership and transformational teaching. I'm a teacher at heart. Hey, there's another one of my teachers in the house, Dr. Janet Anthony. So nice to have you here. And hello, Shelley, another one of our wonderful healers. So thank you, ladies, for being here, and thank you for everyone who's joining. And if you're watching this as a replay, please know that you can still take part in this healing extravaganza. So many of you know that my work as a transformational teacher has me going all over the world, speaking on stages and doing workshops, also writing books and publishing books. And if you ask anyone who really knows me, they would tell you that healing and self-love, even though that's what you primarily hear me talk about, the number one thing that I really, really, really want this world to tap into is self-identity. And so, in my book, I Love You Me, it's all about really identifying who you really are. In order to create self-love, in order to create healing, we can really start with your identity. So I want to start there. And as I said, this is going to be a short broadcast, but we are going to help amp up your energy. What's up, Ashara? Thank you for being here. So far, I know that some of the people who are tuned in, you all happen to be really good at what I'm going to talk about. So feel free to chime in. So what I'm talking about when I say identity, I want you to just ask yourself this question: who am I? No matter what stage I'm on, I'm always asking, who are you? Who do you say you are? Who do you think you are? And even though we may have heard that as a kid, like, who you think you are? Don't be too big for your britches. That's egoic thinking. And the reality is, if we come from the standpoint of ego, we're always going to feel like we need to check in and feel bad if we're getting too puffed up. But I want you to recognize that you are not the ego. You're not your mind. You're not even this body. You're not a diagnosis. You're not a victim. And you're not even a survivor. Because all those things are just labels. Those are labels that we put. Now, part of my work is in personal branding. So I help people bring the image of themselves out to the world on their website and their business cards and their books and TED Talks. And so you would think, well, okay, branding, that's all about putting labels on things. But my approach is a little different. I really help people tune into the essence of who you are on a soul level or on a spiritual level. So no matter what your world is all about right now, I'm asking you to think, who do you say you are? If you're identifying with a label, a role, a title, a weight, or any other diagnostic criteria, then you're limiting yourself. Because you are truly an infinite being. You are a spiritual being, a soul, an essence, whatever you want to call that. That's who you really are. And when you can come and recognize that you are the consciousness that is inhabiting this body, just even that little step alone can start to help you wake up to the trap that is duality. So to give you a little more context, I have been speaking to a number of potential authors. So I'm publishing 2 group books this year. So you've seen the lovely Lena Kirk and Janet Anthony. They are in my book, Time to Rise. And I'm now publishing 2 other books, one about life after trauma and one about magic and miracles. And as I've been talking to people for both of these books, one element keeps coming up in story after story that I'm reading. And that is, people are having these spontaneous moments of oneness, of connectedness. Like all of these stories in my books are generally about people who've gone through some sort of pain, whether that's an illness or divorce or a breakdown or burnout. There's some sort of painful point that many of us humans get to, where some of us would want to just hide under the covers and have a pity party. And I admit I've done that. But these authors are telling me about how they've broken through all of the pain of this body and this physical reality. And what's amazing is they're talking about these spontaneous moments of pure awakening, of bliss, of feeling connected to love and joy. And I personally had an out-of-body, near-death-like experience when I completely surrendered and called to God to take my life. That was back in 2005, and I was at an all-time low with my depression, and I wanted relief. I did leave my body. I went into that oneness, and I got this perspective on who I really am and who I believe we all really are as spiritual beings. And it's also very similar to what I heard and what I read in the book and the TED Talk by Anita Moorjani. And in Anita's case, my illness was depression and anxiety. In her case, she had physical, very visible cancers that were just swollen up on her body. And she was at the point of basically on her deathbed. The doctors told her family she's got hours. And she also left her body. She could see everything that was going on there in the hospital. She could even see her brother across the planet who was getting on a plane to come and say his goodbyes. And as she crossed over into this other side and had a spiritual oneness experience, she came to understand some of the things that I was talking about as well, and I mention it in the book. And that is, for me, the vision that I got and the thing that I'd like for us all to maybe try out is this perspective. From my position in oneness, where I really saw all of my life flash in front of me on earth, I was outside of my body, and I say I mean the consciousness that I am. There with my spiritual guides, I could see all of the things that were going on in my life, and I understood how all those decisions led me to that moment of being depressed. And in my case, when I understood that we are supposed to come to this human realm and incarnate into a physical body and live our life as we choose. So that phrase, I am that I am, or I am that, whatever I say I am is what I am. And in my case, I realized, wow, if I get to choose and stop giving all my credit or my power away to the medical society or my family or my peers, if I choose for myself, oh, well, okay, I'll go back into that body. In Anita's case, as she learned how the cancer in her spiritual experience, where her cancers came from, she also had this epiphany. She was like, okay, well, I don't really want to go back into that body. But she understood that if she went into that body, she would actually have a healed body. And so her spirit went back into that body. And within days, she was not only out of this, coma, and her tumors were starting to shrink. And she was well, and she's still well. She's still, writing books and speaking on stages and helping people tap in. And so I'm saying all of this to understand that our perspective about this human body and who we really are, our identity, can shape our healing or our suffering experience. And I know that when you're going through something painful, it feels like this is the ultimate reality, like this physical world, or when these people are doing you wrong or you're being attacked. It feels so real. It feels like this is the reality. And so I just want to invite us all to do a little exercise. That's one. And two, I'm going to ask for all of our healers and anyone who's good at visualization and anyone who has a compassionate heart. That's all of y'all, right? You got a compassionate heart. We are going to do some group energy work for the people in our tribe who need it and anyone that is connected to you that needs it. So here's the perspective. I just want you to try it on. Try it on like a hat. Try it on like a pair of shoes. Just try it on. If it doesn't fit you, let it go. No judgment, no drama. Okay? What's up, Kimberly? Hello, Trevor and Noemi. So good to have you here. I'm glad you're tuning in now because we're getting to our healing perspectives for those who need it. All right, so here's the thing. I want you to imagine. Just imagine, try it on. Let's imagine that you and the divine, whatever you consider divine, but again, we're just trying this out. Even if you don't believe in God, just try it out as a story. Let's imagine that you, as this beautiful ball of light, get together with the divine, and you're really pretty much already together, but there's this sort of individuated consciousness that says, look at that blue planet. That would be fun to go down there and play. All right, well, let's see. Wouldn't it be fun if we learned about unconditional love? That sounds cool. I'm up here experiencing unconditional love. Why not pop down to that little blue spinning globe? Yeah, let's do that. Okay, cool. And the divine says, now listen, when you go down there, you could go as a dog or a cat or an ant, or you could go as a human. Ooh, human. That sounds fabulous. I mean, they can talk, they can think. I know dogs, they think and they talk, but yeah, wow. As a human, you could really move around all over the earth. You can explore. You can do all sorts of stuff that maybe an ant can't do so much. So you say, all right, yeah, I'll go be a human. And the divine says, now listen, as soon as you, little drop of consciousness, incarnate, you're going to forget. It's just how the game works. It's nothing personal. I still love you. You're still connected to love. You're actually never separate. But it's going to feel like you're separate. And the way that this human thing works is you're going to develop an ego. And your mind is going to make you think that that physical body that you're in is actually you. That's just how it works. No drama, no judgment. I'm not punishing you. And I'm not judging you. It's just a game. We're just going to hang out and see what happens. Wow. Okay. Well, why not? If you're saying, divine, I'm all this unconditional love I'm swimming in, joy, bliss. Now I get to go down there and be creative, travel around this blue spinning planet. You still love me. I love you. There's no judgment. Not that that would even make sense. But the divine is telling you just so it's like, those little disclaimers that you get, all the fine print, just so you know. And so you say, yeah, I'll do that. What's up? What's good? Let's do it. Okay, so you said you wanted to learn about unconditional love. All right, so let's see. All right, so let's choose which part of the planet would be the best playground for that and the best parents. So everything would set you up to really master that lesson. I'm cool. Let's do it. And so that's what happens. You decide. You said yes. You signed up. And poof, this little drop of consciousness comes into this little love-making ceremony. Or maybe it was in a test tube. Doesn't matter. Egg, sperm, collide. Soul gets into mama and then blah. Okay, we don't know when it happens, but there you are. You're in this tummy of this woman. Oh my gosh, but she's not very happy. She ain't happy that there's this little belly full up with it. And now she's smoking and drinking, taking drugs, and oh, her partner is yelling and screaming, and he hits her. Oh, so she decides to leave, and here you are in this woman's belly, and you're now picking up on all of this energy and this fear. What is fear? Why do I feel? Oh, maybe this is some of that stuff that the divine was talking about. Okay, so I don't have enough. Kimberly says, get out of my head. You are hilarious. I'm not in anybody's head. I'm in flow. So, except that I only have 15 minutes, so I got to get off of here. So, okay, this is what we've just experienced, all right? So, you said yes, and now you're in whatever that world circumstance was. And as you come out of the womb, you don't exactly remember, or maybe you have little faint hints about the joy and the bliss that you were, and you're like, what am I doing here? It's painful, it's mean, you don't even have words yet for hunger, like all this stuff that's happening. And some of us will actually feel like, I'm a victim, what are they doing to me? This ain't right. But at your core, you're actually a soul, a spirit, a divine spiritual being. And if you really start to believe that this body is you, then everything that happens to this body you take personally. And that can lead to a lot of fear. It might even lead to shame. Depending on what you experienced in life, you might feel ashamed of this body. You might feel ashamed of your needs. You might even feel guilty that you have needs and that you've put yourself in this world that's driving other people crazy. So I just wanted to go through this as a possibility of perspective. Because if on this little planet that we're on, spinning around the sun, if it's true that we are this perfect spiritual soul essence droplet from God consciousness, if it's true that we can wake up and realize that everything here is just this construct, it's not the ultimate reality, and that we're not really separate from one another, and we're not even separate from the divine, we are one. So just as Anita Morjani, when she came back into her body and she decided that, oh, I have some stuff to do, so I need a body that's going to get me around, her tumors melted. In my case, when I decided, oh, I can go and be creative and do what I want to do, and that looks great, my depression, poof, was gone. So how is it possible that we can have these spontaneous remissions and these healing experiences that come when we have a glimpse of our true divine nature? Not everybody has to have an out-of-body experience or a near-death-like experience. Not everybody has to do, plant-based medicine. Although, if that's what you want to do in a safe environment, let's do that. All I'm saying is, if you're willing to at least open up your mind to the possibility that you are not a disease, you are not this body, you can make that connection again to the divine and start to say, okay, I want to live my life in a different way, which means I'm going to need a different vehicle, or I might need to tune up my vehicle. It's just like, Trevor and I are both going through some traveling, right? So traveling from one part of the country to another. If I was getting ready to go, up into the snowy mountains, I either may need to get some snow tires or some chains on my tires, or I might even just get a whole new car because my little whip might not get me up those twisty mountains, right? Well, if you decide in this moment now that you want to express your life essence in a different way, in a better way, a higher way, whatever, we don't even need to have those dualistic labels. But if you decided, you know what, I want to do something else, and my body is holding me back, then I'm inviting you to this possibility that you can tap into the consciousness that directs all of this life on this planet. Because if spontaneous remissions and healings are available for one person, then they're available for all of us. And yes, there are times when we are going to need help, and that's okay. It just means maybe in this incarnation, your eyes are still a little bit cloudy, or you're still a little young in your journey. That's all right. There's no shame in that. I got mentors, I got coaches, I got people I talk to when I'm coming up to that next level of, And so in our final moments together, I would like it for you, if you need the healing, for you, if you are a healer, to imagine that from the perspective of this divine, beautiful consciousness that is all creative, that is all powerful, that is all benevolent and loving, if we could send from our hearts this compassionate wish that all beings be free from suffering, and that all beings be truly well in body, heart, and mind. If there's somebody in particular that you can bring to mind that needs that healing, then let's do it. Thank you, Roberta, for saying yes. Thank you for admitting that you are a healer. Yes, let's do this. All right, so I have been talking about doing this thing that Lynn McTaggart has been promoting for years, and that is these intention groups. Generally, in what she's doing now, Lynn McTaggart wrote this book called The Power of Eight. 8 people get together with an intention. They send their intention for the healing of someone. So someone who's got some challenge going on. So this is something that I have been doing as a Qigong practitioner, sending healing. And so I want us to get together. If you're interested in becoming one of these 8 in our little healing circle, then send me a private message or an email. Email me at andrea@andreapennington.com, and we can start doing this together. But for right here, right now, I want us all to just maybe put your hand on your heart, take a deep breath in. The deeper, the slower you exhale, the better. And just connect to that part of you that knows you're more than a body. Another deep breath in. Connect with that compassionate heart that wants all beings to feel peace and joy and wellness. Another deep breath in. And now imagine that from a higher standpoint, not as this little tiny person on the planet, but moving into a bigger aspect of yourself, a little bit removed. I want you now to, if there's one person in particular, to think about them. I can tell you of at least 5 people in our tribe who need this. So I want you to imagine that you're sending light and love from your heart. That light could be also coming down from the divine, if you want to think about it that way. You're channeling that light energy through the top of your head and out through your heart or out through your breath. So you're first getting in touch with the desire to be of service and of healing. And as you breathe in, it's like you're filling up with all of this good chi or light or prana, healing energy. And as you exhale, you're sending that light healing energy to the ones in need with the intention that they receive that light. So you might imagine that you can see it just sort of percolating the top of their head and going to all of their body and maybe zoning in on whatever part of their body that needs it. So there's first that sending, and then there's imagining the receiving. Just imagine that light is going out, and you can imagine that light sort of being enveloped all around the earth to anyone who's suffering. Another deep breath in. And after you can do this for a few minutes, where you're just imagining the sending of the light and the love and the desire that people be free from suffering and be well. You're sending that from your heart or from your breath, wrapping around the earth. Then you imagine that it's actually getting into their field, being directed wherever in the body they need it most. And then after a few minutes, as long as you have to be able to do this, the next thing that I want you to do is to be able to imagine that they are on the other side, that they're on the and I don't mean like the other side, they went to heaven or wherever, the au-delà. Let's imagine that they've moved past that illness, they've gone through the healing, and now they're standing, they're jumping, they're dancing. Imagine whatever you can for that person. And maybe it's not so far ahead like they're dancing and jumping. Maybe you just finally see them getting out of bed because they've been so sick and bedridden. So in other words, we start to, as we're continually sending that love and that compassion and that desire for them to be well, and we're envisioning this healing light and this love and this chi, prana, ki, whatever that life force energy is that heals. Maybe it's pixie dust. Maybe there's little fairies or angels. You imagine that. And if they're in the medical system, you can imagine that the healing hands of those doctors and surgeons and nurses and doulas and midwives, or maybe it's the medication. You imagine that as that chemo is dripping in, that it has been touched by divine magic to be a healing power and not a hurting power. Then we imagine that they're getting better. And we see them on the other side of their healing, where they are getting out of bed. And again, it could be something that you can't even imagine. If you've been so sick and so, smacked around, you might not even be able to imagine what it would feel like. And so you just imagine relief. If you can't imagine the complete recovery, then just imagine relief. So what would it feel like if they just had a little relief, and you imagine that, which means they might be picking up the phone saying, this is the first day I've actually had the strength to actually call anyone, or whatever it is. Okay, does that make sense? Imagine them there. And so as you're holding this image and you're just showering them with this love and this intention for healing and recovery, and you see them well, see them in that well state, add this. May they also have the consciousness to learn and to grow from whatever that experience was meant to teach them. I don't believe that karma is this punishing force of evilness. The universal law of karma is the law of cause and effect. The things that are ripening in our lives are ripening because there were seeds planted in our past, whether in this lifetime or a previous lifetime. But it's not about punishment. It's not about judgment. It's just a matter of cause and effect. And so if I've been sowing seeds of anger or unforgiveness or meanness, or in a past life I killed people, so, in subsequent lifetimes I have to experience that, what have you. We've all been sisters, brothers, mothers, fathers. If you can imagine that, and imagine that in that healing light, in that chi, according to the Chinese medical system, the chi, this life force energy that is around us, has both energy and information. So in that healing energy that's working on the body, imagine that the consciousness of that person is also being awakened so that they understand the lesson. Because sometimes if we didn't learn a lesson, it's going to come back. Life works in cycles. Am I right? Dharma Vijaya Milawa, who says, you're a Buddhist monk listening in Sri Lanka. How wonderful. Good to have you here. So does this make sense? It's this is important for us to just bear witness to the fact that we go through these experiences and there are lessons. Hello, Hugh. You say you agree on what I describe karma as. It's not punishment. It's just planting corn and receiving corn. Yeah, so this is what we can look at these experiences as. So as we're sending out that healing energy, as we're sending out the wish that this person not suffer, that the wish that this person be, perfectly well in body, mind, and heart, we know that, as the Buddha taught, everyone, every being is an heir to their own actions. And just because I wish for someone to be happy doesn't make it so. because everyone is an heir to their own actions. And so when we send out this healing energy, or any of us as healers, as a doctor, a surgeon, as a quantum touch practitioner, whatever you're doing, when you're trying to quote unquote heal someone, they also need the enlightenment or the consciousness that goes with that. So I want you to just include that in your prayer. And I don't mean this in a judgmental way, like, you got to learn your lesson before you can be healed. It's not like that. But we just pray that as they get that healing energy, that they also get the consciousness attached with it that shows them what they need to see on this path toward awakening. All right? So my friends, I hope that this has been helpful for you, or given you at least a new perspective on healing. And the thing that you can remember is that this is available for us as well, for you as well. And the beauty of being in service like this, where we unconditionally just give love, is that we get that back. It comes back to us because we're not separate. We are one. If you really can get back to that perspective of you and the divine looking down on earth, you realize that all of this is contained within our consciousness. All right? And so we're not separate. There is no good, bad, right, wrong, high or low. We are one in our consciousness. So be mindful of who you say you are. Be mindful of that so that you remember who you really are. And so that you can touch into or tap into the healing potential that is in all of us. And then share with me the magic and the miracles that you see. So please share this with anyone that you know who really needs some healing. I thank you all for being here. I mentioned that this was inspired by some of these conversations that I've had with some of you about the book. So definitely, if you are interested in being published in my next book, which one of them is about magic and miracles, I would love that. I also have a book on recovering from trauma. So you can find all about those book projects there. But in the meantime, just remember that you can send this love to anyone. And just remember that if we all get together and we do this regularly, that means there's always a field of healing in this community. And so when you need it, tap in, breathe it in, receive it. All right? And as part of the Real Self-Love movement, I have a ton of masterclasses, guided meditations, and all that kind of stuff. So if you would like any of that, I've put the links here so that you can start listening to these guided meditations, or just do any sort of meditation that's going to remind you to connect from your heart and soul. All right? Thank you all for being here. It's been lovely to see some familiar faces and some new names popping up. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here and being so generous. And I look forward to seeing you next time. Much love. Bye.